Stop trying to get closer to him right now, completely. That avoidant man you've been chasing, trying to understand, bending yourself into shapes for, desperately trying to make feel safe enough to love you, the thing that will make him melt, the thing that will make him chase you, the thing that will make him finally commit isn't more love, it's not more patience. It's the exact opposite. There's one simple thing you can do that flips the entire dynamic with an avoidant man. One behavior that makes him go from running away to running toward you. One shift that transforms you from the person he's avoiding into the person he's afraid of losing. And it's so counterintuitive, so against everything you've been taught about love, that most women never figure it out. If an avoidant man has ever pulled away from you and you didn't know how to get him back, type the words "stop chasing" in the comments, because that's exactly what you need to do. Type "stop chasing" now. Let me tell you what doesn't work with avoidant men. Being more available doesn't work. Being more understanding doesn't work. Giving them more space while still making it clear you're waiting doesn't work. Being the cool girl who doesn't have needs doesn't work. Trying to prove you're safe and won't hurt them doesn't work. Doing everything perfectly so they have no reason to leave doesn't work, because none of these things address the actual psychology of what makes an avoidant man fall in love. Here's what you need to understand about avoidant men. They are attracted to one thing above everything else: independence. Not neediness disguised as independence. Not performed independence where you're secretly desperate. Real, genuine, I have a full life and you're optional independence. And the one simple thing that makes an avoidant man melt is when you stop making him the center of your world and start living like he's a bonus, not a necessity. This sounds too simple, but it's profound, because what happens when you genuinely live your life independent of an avoidant man is you trigger the one fear that's stronger than his fear of intimacy, his fear of abandonment. Avoidants have both fears: fear of being trapped and fear of being left. When you're chasing them, you're triggering the trapped fear. They feel smothered, controlled, like you need too much, so they run. But when you stop chasing, when you genuinely pull your energy back and invest it in your own life, you trigger the abandonment fear, and that fear makes them chase. Let me break down exactly what this looks like. You stop initiating contact completely. You're not texting him good morning, you're not asking about his day, you're not checking in, you're not keeping the conversation going. If he reaches out, you respond, but you're not starting it. And this immediately changes the dynamic, because he's used to you doing the work of maintaining connection. Now he has to do it. And at first he might not. He might go silent for days. And this is the test. Can you sit in that silence without panicking? Can you resist the urge to reach out? Can you actually let him come to you? You stop being available whenever he wants you. You have plans, real plans, not fake busy to make him jealous, actually busy with your own life. When he asks to hang out and you're genuinely doing something else, you say, "I can't tonight, maybe this weekend." You're not dropping everything for him anymore. You're not rearranging your life around his sporadic availability. You have a schedule, you have commitments, you have a life, and he has to fit into it, not the other way around. You stop managing his emotions. This is huge. You're not trying to make him feel better. You're not walking on eggshells to avoid triggering his distance. You're not carefully crafting your words to prevent him from pulling away. You just say what you need to say. Express what you need to express. And if that makes him uncomfortable, that's his to manage. You're done shrinking yourself to make him comfortable. You're done performing emotional labor for someone who won't do the same for you. You stop chasing him when he pulls away. When he goes into one of his withdrawal phases, you don't follow. You don't try to pull him back. You don't send those texts asking if he's okay or what's wrong or if you did something. You just let him go. And you go live your life. You see friends, you work on your goals, you do things that make you happy. And when he comes back, if he comes back, you're pleasant, but you're not relieved. You're not grateful he's returned. You're just like, "Oh, hey, you're back," because you were fine without him. You stop making your happiness dependent on him. This is the core shift. You find joy in your own life. You create fulfillment that exists, whether he's present or not. You stop waiting for him to text to feel good. You stop needing him to validate you to feel worthy. You stop requiring his attention to feel loved. You generate all of that internally and from other sources, and he becomes one piece of your life, not the whole pie. Now, here's what happens when you actually do this. when you genuinely stop chasing and start living. The avoidant man notices, he feels the shift. You're not pursuing him anymore. You're not anxiously trying to maintain connection. You're just existing in your own abundant life. And this creates a discomfort in him that he's not used to. He's used to you being the one who's worried about losing him. Now he's the one wondering if he's losing you. He starts reaching out more, testing if you're still there, sending random texts to see how you respond. And when you respond casually, not overly excited, not desperate for his attention, just neutral and friendly, he's confused. Where's the girl who was always trying to get closer? Where's the anxiety? Where's the need? And that confusion makes him more interested, because humans want what they're not sure they can have. He starts making more effort. He initiates plans instead of waiting for you to suggest them. He texts you first. He asks about your life. He tries to be part of your world because he's realizing you're not revolving around his anymore. And this effort, this pursuit, is what you've been wanting all along. But it only comes when you stop chasing. When you genuinely become the prize instead of treating him like one. He starts feeling safe to get closer. This is the paradox. Avoidant men feel safer when you're not chasing them. When there's no pressure, no expectations, no neediness. When you're just a whole person living a whole life who might be interested in them but doesn't need them. That's the environment where their nervous system calms down enough to actually consider intimacy. Because intimacy isn't a threat anymore, it's optional, and optional feels safe. He starts to fall in love, real love, not the obligatory kind where he stays because you're always there, but the choosing kind, where he actively decides you're worth pursuing, worth keeping, worth being vulnerable with, because you're not just anyone. You're the woman who has her own life, who doesn't need him, but chooses him. And that distinction makes all the difference to an avoidant. Now let me address the fear that's coming up. What if I stop chasing and he just lets me go? What if he doesn't come back? What if this pushes him away forever? Here's the truth. If stopping the chase makes him leave, he was never going to stay anyway. He was only there because you were doing all the work. And the moment you stopped, there was nothing holding him because he wasn't actually invested. And discovering that early is better than discovering it years later after you've exhausted yourself trying to keep someone who was never really yours. But here's what usually happens. When you stop chasing an avoidant who actually has feelings for you, who's actually interested but just scared, he wakes up. He realizes he's about to lose something real, and his fear of abandonment becomes stronger than his fear of intimacy, and he pursues. Not always immediately. Sometimes it takes weeks or months. But if there was anything real there, your absence will make him feel it. And if he doesn't pursue, if he just lets you walk away, you've just saved yourself from a relationship that would have drained you forever. From being with someone who was only there because you made it easy. From loving someone who wasn't capable of loving you back the way you needed. And now you're free to find someone who is. Here's the key to making this work. It has to be genuine. You can't fake not caring. You can't perform having a life while secretly obsessing over him. You can't pretend to be independent while checking your phone every 5 minutes hoping he texted. Avoidant men can sense inauthenticity. They'll feel the desperation under the performance, and it won't work. You have to actually do the work of building a life you love, actually invest in yourself, actually create joy and purpose and fulfillment that exists independent of him. Actually become okay with the possibility of losing him because, you'll be okay either way. That genuine shift in energy is what makes the difference. Because it's not a tactic at that point, it's who you've become. And that version of you is irresistible to an avoidant. Let me give you a real scenario. You've been dating an avoidant man for months. Things are good when you're together, but he's inconsistent, sometimes warm, sometimes distant. You've been doing most of the pursuing, initiating texts, making plans, keeping the connection alive, and you're exhausted. So you decide to try this. You stop initiating. You fill your schedule with things you actually want to do. You stop being available every time he has a free moment. Week 1, he doesn't notice much. Maybe he texts a few times and you respond but don't carry the conversation. Week 2, he realizes you haven't reached out at all. He sends a message asking what you're up to. You respond that you've been busy with work and friends. He suggests hanging out. You say you're free this weekend and suggest a specific day. He agrees. Week 3, you see him and you're different. You're lighter. You're not anxious. You're genuinely happy because you've been doing things that fulfill you. He notices. He's more attentive than usual, more present. Over the next month, the pattern shifts. He's initiating more. He's making plans further in advance. He's asking about your life with genuine interest. He's less distant because he's feeling less pressure. You're less anxious because you're not depending on him for your happiness. The dynamic has fundamentally changed, not because you manipulated him, but because you stopped abandoning yourself for him. This is what melts an avoidant man, not your love, not your patience, not your understanding, your independence, your wholeness, your refusal to make him your entire world, your ability to be happy without him. Because that combination of being wanted but not needed is what every avoidant man is unconsciously looking for. Someone who won't trap them, who won't smother them, who gives them space to breathe, but who also won't wait forever, who has standards, who has a life, who might leave if he doesn't step up, and stepping up becomes worth it, because you're worth it. Not because you're chasing him and making him feel important, but because you're not chasing him and he's realizing he might lose you. And that fear, that possibility, makes him finally do what you've been wanting all along. Choose you, actively, intentionally, without you having to convince him. Here's what this looks like long term. You maintain your independence even as the relationship deepens. You don't merge your life with his. You keep your friends, your hobbies, your goals, your identity. And he respects that, actually loves that, because you're not asking him to be your everything. You're just asking him to be your partner. And partnership feels manageable to an avoidant in a way enmeshment never will. You maintain your boundaries. You don't tolerate behavior that doesn't work for you just because he's avoidant. If he goes silent for a week, you don't punish him, but you also don't act like it didn't happen. You might say, I need more consistent communication. If that's not something you can do, that's okay, but this won't work for me. And you mean it. And he either steps up or he doesn't, but you're not lowering your standards either way. You stay in your own life, even when things are good, even when he's being consistent. You don't make him the center again, because that's when avoidance gets scared and start pulling away. You keep your life full and balanced, and he remains a part of it, an important part, but a part, not the whole thing. And in this dynamic, the avoidant man doesn't just melt, he transforms. He becomes more emotionally available because there's space for him to be. He becomes more consistent because he has to be to keep you. He becomes more vulnerable because you're not weaponizing his vulnerability with neediness. He becomes the partner you always wanted, not because you changed him, but because you changed yourself. You stopped chasing, you started living. And that shift changed everything. The one simple thing that makes avoidant men melt is you genuinely not needing them. You wanting them but being completely okay if they're not capable of showing up. You offering connection but not requiring it for your survival. You being interested but not desperate. You having a full, rich, purposeful life that they'd be lucky to be part of. That energy is magnetic. That energy is irresistible. That energy makes an avoidant man go from running away to running toward you. So stop chasing, start living. Build a life so good that a man has to bring his best self to be worthy of it. And watch how quickly the avoidant man who was running from you starts fighting for you.